Hello and welcome back to the channel, folks. I am your host, Vortex from MobileMusicPro.com, your home for mobile music production. And if you're new to the channel, what we do here is we try to help and create more mobile music producers. And don't forget, you can always find more videos just like this one in the description below. So smash those likes and subscribe if you want to learn more about music production on your iOS device. And remember that every single thumbs up helps this video get found by more people, which helps us get more people into mobile music production. Now, in today's video, we're going to be giving you our top 5 picks for the best drum machines that will work inside any DAW. And as always, we're not putting these apps in any specific order. Really, all of these apps, if they ever make any type of top list of ours, they're all number 1 in our book. And that's because, of course, it always comes down to personal preference and workflow at the end. Now, we've definitely done a few top list videos relating to drum machines on this channel, such as the top 5 samplers video and the top 5 apps for creating drums from scratch video. So make sure to check out those as well. But instead of focusing on drum synths to create drums or samplers to sample in drums for later use, here we'll be specifically focused on apps that allow you to input and sequence your drums inside your DAW. Now, there really is a bunch of amazing drum machine apps out there, folks. But today, again, we'll just be focusing on apps that support that AUv3 standard. And so, with that intro aside, let's get right into showing you our top 5 picks for the best AUv3 drum machines. Alright, hello and welcome, folks. We hope everybody is doing well today. We are wishing you the happiest of the happiest, but before we get started, we just wanted to mention a quick few things here. The first is that we wanted to remind you that we really don't go too deep into these apps in these top 5 videos. Rather, we just prefer to show off the features we like the most and generally share why we love these apps. The second is that all of these apps will be shown off today in their AUv3 mode inside our DAW of choice, Cubasis 3. Now, all of these apps can be used without the AUv3 mode, but since this is the preferred standard for the majority of professional producers out there, this is the mode that we're going to show them in. And finally, we thought it was worth mentioning that most of the software drum machines today in the modern age are really far more than just simple sequencers and pads that originally inspired them. You'll find that all of the drum machines featured today are kind of more like groove machines in the sense that they offer the ability to create complete songs by including many other instruments, additional effects, and the ability to arrange patterns into a fully fleshed out song. Okay, so with those quick points aside, let's get into these top 5 drum machines. And the first app that we'll be talking about today is the Digistix Drummer by 4pockets.com, available for $8.99. Digistix comes with a host of features that allows you to sample your own drum kits and trigger them either using a host application, via MIDI, or using the inbuilt pattern and song editor, which automatically syncs your tempo with your DAW. Digistix also features 16 assignable pads, a 16-channel mixer, and configurable effects such as digital delay, reverb, chorus, and more. And we have Digistix pulled up here inside of our Cubasis 3 project. And if you are familiar with the 4Pockets apps, you'll find that this user interface is very, very similar. And that is because I do believe the author of these apps, Paul, does create these in a very modular way. So let's just quickly take a look at the 3 main screens that you'll find. Just like all the other 4Pockets apps, you'll actually be able to scroll up and down through the screens. So we have our first screen here that we'll go into more in a second, and then we have our second screen, which is our sequencer, where we can pattern out our drums. And the third page is your pads, which comes in very, very handy if you don't have a MIDI controller hooked up. And finally, we have the sample page. This is where you can import your own sounds. And as always, there is an About page, of course, here at the bottom, but you won't be using this page very much. Now, many of the apps we'll be talking about today do scale pretty well in their AUv3 mode. So let's go ahead and take a look at this in full screen mode so you can see everything much better. And now that we're in full screen mode, you can see that the first 2 pages have been combined into one screen. Which really makes a lot of sense because once you have all of your samples loaded, these are the 2 main screens you'll be working with. So let's go ahead and point out a few of the obvious quick features first. You can see on the left-hand side, you'll find all of your effects, which is the delay, reverb, and chorus. You can enable and disable any of these effects very quickly by simply tapping and retapping the enable button. To the right of that, we'll find our tempo and sync. This is where we can set important things like our tempo and our swing. And then we have our filter, featuring a low pass filter and a high pass filter, which comes with your standard knobs, the cutoff, and the resonance. And Digistix even comes featured with a tube overdrive, which is really great for pushing those drums to the very limits. And of course, the pattern page is pretty self-explanatory. You just simply tap in your notes where you'd like to have them played. And then we can play those back. And it's just as simple as that. And now let's just quickly see a couple of the built-in kicks that this app comes with. If we go over to the bank section, we'll make sure that our default is selected, and then we can choose our drum kits to the right. You can see that Digistix does feature a fair number of free kits that comes with the app, including some alt-rock, dubstep, electronic, hip-hop, and more. And you'll find that all of these kits are very, very high quality. Let's go ahead and demo just a few right now. So first, we'll take a look at the acoustic. Very nice. Let's take a look at another. We'll try the EDM kit. And next we'll try another kit. How about the classic hip hop kit 1? Okay, very cool. And we're just playing all of these in with our pad controller, by the way. So we're not exactly going to be featuring any complex patterns in this video. And so now finally we just want to list off a couple of things that we really enjoy about this app. And the first is these VU meters. We really like the visual display of these meters. It kind of takes us back to the analog days. So very cool to see these added in. And the second is having all of our effects right up front, right here, easy to use. In a lot of different apps, the effect part of the app can get really complex and often take up a screen by itself. But having these three right next to each other, nice and color-coded, really makes it easy to get at them and get great results really fast. And again, all of the 4Pockets apps have great user interfaces, very, very modular, very, very easy to read. Highly recommend checking them out. And the second app featured on our list today is Beathawk by AUv3, available for $9.99. Now, Beathawk, just like the previous apps, is a little bit more than just a regular drum machine. Beathawk really is a full-blown music production studio with a MPC-like workflow. Packed with high-quality AUv3 sounds, Beathawk allows you to create beats, compose whole tracks, sample, record, and more. Now we have Beathawk pulled up here in Cubasis 3 as an AUv3 plugin, and as you can see, it is very, very small when you start it initially. And this is one of the main gripes that I really have with Beathawk in an AUv3 format. Other than that, it works absolutely beautifully when you make it full screen. So let's go ahead and do that now so you can kind of see what we're looking at here. So we'll just tap the square here to make this full screen, and now we can see what we're looking at. And you'll find that the app is split up into two sections. You have the pads on the left, and the effects and other controls on the right. You can enter the song mode where you can put together all of your patterns by tapping on the S here. You can arrange all of the patterns that you create right here on the left-hand side, and then play through them by tapping on the play button. And to return to our pad mode, we'll tap that S once more. To load any of your previous projects or save your current project, we tap on the Beathawk logo just to the right of that. And this will bring up your menu so that you can create a new project, load a project, or save your current project. As we said, the interface is split up into two views here, with your pads on the left and your track and patterns on the right. You can view your pattern just by tapping the pattern button. And then to return to your track-specific settings, you tap the track button. You can take full control of your track with all of these settings within this page. By default, the volume page is shown, so you can set your volume, pan, and pitch. To the right of that, we have our ADSR. To the right of that, we have our additional effects that we can apply, including high-pass filter, low-pass filter, reverb, and delay. And to the right of that, we have our record page, where you can record sound in directly. And then finally, we have our sample page on the far right. This will allow you to modify and drill into the exact part of the sample that you'd like to play. So let's return to our volume page here. And on the pad page here, you can see that these pads are pretty self-explanatory. You just tap on them to execute the sound. But Beathawk features additional abilities for these pads. Here you can see on this pad on the bottom left-hand side that there is a loop icon, indicating that there is a sample in here that will get looped. So to play that sample, we have to hold this down. In addition to that, there is instrument pads, where once you load up one single sound, you can play it across your entire keyboard, much like a sampler. And as you can see, when you just tap it, it'll just play that single note. But once you tap the keyboard icon above, you'll be greeted with a keyboard layout, where you can play that sample in all of the notes. And if you have your MIDI controller hooked up, you can begin playing on that. And then to return to the pads, you simply tap the pad icon on the far left. Now, like we said in the beginning, UVI is known for their sounds, and Beathawk can take full advantage of that. So if we tap our browser on the track page on the right-hand side, we can see that we'll be greeted with all of the different sample packs that UVI has for purchase. And there really is a lot of them. Everything from funk, disco, choirs, bass riffs, electronic piano, world sounds from Africa, Asia, Celtic, and more. And of course all of your classic stuff, such as string and brass ensembles. And even some fun stuff, such as musical toys. So just a ton of samples to choose from here. So I'd just like to demo a couple of these sounds real quick, if that's alright with you guys, just so you can see the quality here. So first let's tap on Electro Pop. We'll go to some construction kits, and let's tap on one of these. Let's try the Pop Tech. Alright, very cool drums. Let's try another one. Alright, amazing sounds. Beathawk really is one of those apps that, while easy to use on the surface, does have a lot to be able to dig into. And that's one of the reasons we love it, as well as the vast array of great sounds to choose from. And the third app in our top 5 list is EG Pulse by Elliott Garage, available for $13.99. EG Pulse is the ultimate drum machine for iOS, featuring a sequencing engine that allows for precise trap rhythms, hip-hop grooves, electronic beats, and more. EG Pulse comes with 40 drum kits and more than 180 grooves to help you easily get started making professionally sounding drums as soon as possible. Now we do have EG Pulse pulled up here inside of Cubasis 3, and as you can see, the default view doesn't really show a whole lot of information. So that would be one of the only gripes I have with EG Pulse. Just like Beathawk, the interface really has to be usable in its default view. Here you can see that's just simply not the case, as it wasn't the case with Beathawk. But nevertheless, once you do full screen this app, just like Beathawk, there is so much amazing features to get into. So let's go ahead and full screen this app now. We'll tap the square here. Now, once full screen, we can really start digging in and see that this interface is separated into 3 main sections. We have our pads over here on the right. We have our transport controls on the top, with the tab-like buttons that will bring up different pages. And then we have our effect section here on the left, where you can do things like roll and fill. The main things that you need to worry about right away is, of course, your BPM and your pads. So you can see that's really easy to find. But beyond this, EG Pulse does have a few other pages. So if we look in the top here, we can see that we have Grid, Mixer, and Song. The page that gets brought up by default is the page we're currently on now, called Pads. So if we tap the Grids page, we can see that this is where you'd be entering your individual notes to sequence your drums. And to do that, you simply just tap in your notes. Next, we have the Mixer page, featuring a 16-panel mixer here. And then finally we have our song page, where you can put together your individual patterns to create a whole song. So if we go back to the pads page here, we do have a couple of different options on these pads. You can play them normally just by tapping them. But then in addition to that, there is a keys mode, which will allow you to play any one of those samples in any note. And you can browse your scale by tapping up and down here. So let's go back to the pads mode. And now let's just take a quick look at some of the built-in kits that comes with EG Pulse. To see those, we simply tap on the disc icon on the far left-hand side, and that will bring up your banks. EG Pulse features a number of banks to be able to choose from, including soundtrack loops, hip-hop beats, electronic beats, acoustic, and more. So let's tap on the acoustic, and we'll tap on rock. And let's see what that sounds like. Okay, very cool. Let's just try one more of these kits. We'll go back, and we'll try a hip-hop beat. And let's try hip-hop vinyl. Okay, very cool. Some of the great things that we love about this app is really the user interface and how easy it is to use. One example of that is its roll feature. So all you have to do is tap on roll and then tap on a pad to initiate the roll. Making it really easy to get some of those rolls in for both hats and snares. And overall, we really do think that EG Pulse is a fantastic drum machine. It's easy to use, it's got a bunch of different sounds, and of course, it is AUv3. And the fourth app in our list today is Playset by FingerLab, available for $3.99. Brought to you by the team behind the famous DM1 drum machine app, Playset is an intuitive drum and synth sequencer designed for instant fun and live music, featuring 50 original sample kits, a mixer page, multiple effects types such as reverb, delay, chorus, and more. Now, once again, we do have our app pulled up here inside Cubasis 3, and as you can see, Playset has a very simple interface, with the sequencer right away, taking up most of the UI, which I think is really great. However, like some of the previous AUv3 apps mentioned, the UI does have a couple of scaling issues. You'll notice that it is all the way in the left-hand side instead of being centered. And then when we make this larger, you can see that it does not scale. And when we make it full screen, you can see that it does remain the same size. So there is still some work left to be done here. But once again, it is hard to complain about some of these smaller issues from these apps when they already do so much. And of course, it is still early days for the AUv3 standard. It's only a couple years old. So in the future, I do expect many of these UI issues and UI scaling issues to go away. Okay, so let's dig in here. We're going to have all of our sounds on the left-hand side. You can see we have the kick, snare, hi-hat, percussion, bass, and lead. Above all of those sounds, we have our kits. If we tap our kits, we can see that that will bring up our preset list for each of these individual sounds, including the drums, bass, and lead. And you can change these really easy. And we'll play more with these presets in a second, so let's close out of there for now. As we mentioned, the sequencer does take center stage here and allows you to easily just tap in your notes. All of our drum machines have featured step sequencers today, but it's really only Playset that puts it front and center. And now let's explore the options on the right-hand side. These are the buttons that will bring up the additional pages. So by default, we are shown our steps page, and then we have our pattern, and then we have our mixer, our additional effects, and then finally our sessions, which we won't get into today. So let's just quickly take a look at our pattern page. You can select which pattern that you'd like to use by simply tapping on it. And you can copy and paste patterns by tapping the little plus button up there, which reveals an additional menu that allows you to copy, paste, clear, or choose a random. So what we've done now is just choose a random pattern. So let's hear what that sounds like now. So a very handy feature to use when you're looking for inspiration. Now let's check out the effects page, because the mix page is pretty self-explanatory. So if we go to the effects page, you can see that there is a number of effects to choose from, and you can enable all of these at the same time. To enable and disable your effects, you simply tap on the name. And to choose a different effect, we simply tap on the drop-down arrow. This reveals the additional effects that we can choose from, including reverb, delay, tremolo, flanger, pitch, and more. You can see that the effects is separated into 4 different sections: the drums, bass, lead, and master. So now let's quickly play with a couple of the presets that comes with this app. We'll go back to the step sequencer, and let's tap on the kits, and let's start playing with a couple of these sounds. We'll try switching out the drums first. Okay, now let's try switching out that lead, because that lead seems to be getting annoying to me. Let's go ahead and try that. Alright, so as you can see, Playset really is a nice little app, allowing you to enter your patterns in very easily, featuring that right front and center, with some awesome effects that are nice and easily separated out for you into your drums and your lead and your bass. Once again, the only gripe that we do have with this app is the user interface scaling. So we do hope that FingerLab does fix that in the future, because we absolutely do love this app. And the final app that we'll be discussing in today's top 5 video is Sidekick by Bleace Software, available for $4.99. Now, technically, Sidekick is actually an AUv3 effect and not an instrument, but it can still serve the same purpose, so we decided to still include it in this list. Now, Sidekick is one of the only apps to feature a kick drum and a sequencer coupled with a sidechain compressor that enables a laser focus on quickly creating that EDM drum. This app can of course be used with all genres as well, but is very, very easy and slick to use with electronic music. Now, we do have the app pulled up here inside of Cubasis 3, and you can see, unlike the other apps, that this app really doesn't have any scaling issues. The app is centered, and we can of course drag this up and down to make this larger. So definitely kudos to both Bleace and 4Pockets for making their interfaces scalable and easy to use at any size. Now, in addition to being an effect technically instead of an instrument, Sidekick is actually more of a drum synth than a drum machine. But again, it can still serve the same purpose. There really is a lot of overlap between these different types of instruments, such as drum machines and groove machines and so forth. So let's just make this a little bit bigger so we can dig in. On the bottom of the app is where you'll find your sequencer. We're on the default preset right now, and on the default preset, the kicks are set to 4 on the floor. Bleace makes it really easy to carve out a great kick really fast. And it does that with these 4 main settings right next to each other, and that is the waveform, punch, hardness, and punch decay. Just tweaking these 4 settings can give you wildly different results. And to the right of that, we have our ducker, which is essentially our compressor that acts as a sidechain compressor. So that if you don't actually want to use a kick on this particular track, for example, if this is a synth track and you only want this to duck a 4 on the floor kick, then you would just be using this ducker on the right hand side, and that will effectively give you your sidechain compression effect. And we'll demonstrate that for you in just a second. But first, let's hear what the kick sounds like. So again, we do have our 4 on the floor pattern, and we'll just play that now. So pretty simple, of course. But again, really nice to have at your fingertips whenever you need it. So let's quickly start playing with a couple of these settings now. First, we'll play with the waveform. And then the hardness. And now the punch. And the punch decay. And there's even these additional awesome settings like body and impact. Let's play with those now. As you can see, it really is easy to get any type of kick sound that you need up and running very fast. Okay, and now let's hear this ducker in action. What we're going to do is we're going to play the synth for you, and then we'll enable the ducker. So we'll just play this first. Alright, now let's go ahead and enable the ducker. Alright, as you can hear, you get that pulse sounding EDM sound. And all of your compressor settings are easily accessible right here, as Sidekick does feature only one main page. And so as you can see, Sidekick isn't your traditional drum machine, but it absolutely solves a very specific problem and creates a laser-focused workflow around that. Alright, hello and welcome back everybody. If you are watching the video this far, or if you're watching the video live, we just so very much appreciate you. And can't thank you enough for being a part of our journey this early. Because there really is just so much more content to come and so many things that we're going to share with you in the coming months. And speaking of such things, we actually will be having a channel update video coming very shortly. But more on that later. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you may notice that we really don't prefer to go too deep on apps. We usually do try to provide more general-like overviews, and try to get into more specific music production-related videos. Because we know your time is valuable, we do try to keep these videos as short as possible, mostly trying to clock in around 20 minutes or so. And so far, the new schedule has been working out pretty well. But we do end up cutting it a little bit too close most of the time. So because of this, we're actually going to be switching up our schedule to be Wednesdays and Saturdays instead of Wednesdays and Fridays. So we're just pushing back that one day from Friday to Saturday. So if you are rocking with us and you have been enjoying this new schedule, please leave a comment below and let us know. And of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We really do appreciate everybody so much who shares out the show. And so, until next time everybody, keep talking music and we'll see you later.